Sit down. I'll request that we do the reading of the preamble of the Constitution together. It will be on the screen, and we'll observe after that a moment of silence for all the heroes and the heroines who have fallen in the course of the struggle for a democratic South Africa. May we rise, please. We will start together. We can start. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We, therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as a supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people, and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, and build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Kosi sikeleli Africa, Morena puluga setšhaba sa geso, God send South Africa, God bless South Africa, Muzimu patucheza Africa, Hosi katekisa Africa. May we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated.
The stars had realigned at last. All South Africans had voted. Political prisoners and exiles made up more than half of the new parliament, which doubled up as a constitutional assembly. The first task was to draft the final constitution, the highest law of the land. The drafters had just 2 years for this mammoth task. The clock was ticking. 2 million submissions were sent to the drafters from the people. The assembly argued and debated, for and against, until deep into the night. A first working draft was handed to the president. Several issues made the deadline seemingly impossible. The clock ticked, but determination won the day. On 7 May 1996, a final draft of the Constitution was submitted to Parliament just 8 minutes late.
This is the day when South Africa is truly born.
I am an African. But we refuse to accept that our Africanness shall be defined by our race, our color, our gender, or our historical origins.
Now the Constitutional Court had to certify it. They sent the text back to the Constitutional Assembly for corrections before they were satisfied. There was jubilation, a final constitution at last, at a stadium in Sharp. The law for our new country. Our constitution gives us the map for the way forward. On its own, it doesn't stop corruption, it doesn't build schools, homes, or hospital beds. But if we, the people, continue to roll up our sleeves, we can make the constitutional dream our reality. Our dreams and struggle for freedom continue.
Mr. President, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor now to invite to the stage the Honorable Mr. Jomo Nyambi, the representative of the National Assembly, to make some remarks. Mr. Nyambi.
Program Director, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Honorable Lamula, Honorable Members of Parliament, some of the executive present, leaders and representatives of Chapter 9 institutions, leaders of civil society organizations, traditional leadership, business, and all religious leaders, esteemed facilitators and panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be afforded this opportunity to address you on behalf of the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, who was invited to share the view of the legislative sector on this auspicious occasion of the National Conference of our Constitution. Both the National Chairperson of Council of Provinces, NCOP, and the Speaker of the National Assembly are returning from Moscow, Russia, where they led a parliamentary delegation to the second International Parliamentary Conference, which was held under the theme, Russia, Africa in Multipolar World. The conference provided an opportunity for parliamentarians from Russia and Africa to deal with a range of issues focusing on economic, scientific, and security aspects. I'm therefore privileged to represent the two executive heads of parliament as I participate in this conference, which is meant to reflect on the implementation of the Constitution in the first 25 years of democracy and deliberating on the road ahead under the theme, open quote, reflections on the Constitution, rule of law, accountability, social and economic justice, close quote. As Parliament, we hugely appreciate the fact that the conference is geared to achieve the stated outcomes which are critical to the state of our constitutional democracy, which include, to mention a few, the promotion of the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law, the recognition of the progress made in pursuit of the rule of law, accountability, social and economic justice, and associated challenges, opening up the space for the generation of new ideas and innovative solutions to current and future challenges. In this regard, we hope that the views, experiences, knowledge, and the wisdom of various participants will make this an important platform for harvesting ideas that will take the constitutional project to another level. Our Constitution gives effect to a democratic system of governance that is based on inherent human dignity, equality, and the rule of law. The birth of the Constitution paved the way for constitutional democracy, which eliminated the system of parliamentary sovereignty, replacing it with a constitutional system that is based upon the principle of the supremacy of the Constitution. The Constitution gives the people of the land the right to elect parliament, provincial legislatures, and municipal councils every 5 years. These legislative bodies are vested with the power to act as the voice of the people. Essentially, they are constitutionally empowered and positioned to fulfill their functions of lawmaking, oversight, and public participation. They serve as critical instrument for advancing people's power, fast-tracking the transformation of our society. And they play a very important role in both the pursuit and the realization of socio-economic outcomes. Since the coming into effect of the Constitution, our Parliament has made great strides in laying the foundation for a democratic and open society which government is based on the will of the people. In particular, the establishment of this NCOP, which is one of the two houses of Parliament, it's one of the significant innovations introduced by the Constitution. The NCOP, which came into effect in February 1997, represents the interest of provinces and also provides for the participation by local government representatives who represent the different categories of our municipalities. Located at a national level and serving as the nexus of provincial legislatures and organized local government, the NCOP is constitutionally designed to contribute to effective government. Program Director, as we reflect on the first 25 years of the Constitution, we need, among other things, to look at the role of this House in contributing to the improvement of the quality of life of the citizens. In particular, we must ask whether the NCOP has contributed to the creation of a unified and accountable government that is responsive to the needs of the citizens. In the course of that exercise, we must take into account the innovations introduced by the House in giving life to the notion of Parliament that goes to where people live and open itself up their views. The Constitution provides a very clear progressive principle for the promotion of cooperative government and intergovernmental relations in South Africa. In order to advance these governance philosophy, government needs to ensure cooperation and coordination in the fulfillment of public duties so that it can benefit the citizens. Importantly, if we are to realize the aspiration contained in the Constitution, we need to strengthen local government, in particular, which is the sphere of government that is constitutionally tasked to promote social and economic development. If we manage to do that, we will succeed in improving the quality of life of all citizens and freeing the potential of each one of them. Also, and more importantly, we need to reflect on the role that has been played by Parliament broadly. That is both the National Assembly and the NCOP, as it has managed to position itself over the years as an activist parliament. In doing so, it is perhaps pertinent to note that when Parliament presiding officers appeared before the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture in 2021, the central question was, where was Parliament when some of these things related to the allegations of state capture took place? Being aware of this criticism, which surely preoccupied society, Parliament has already started looking at some of the issues that emanated from the Commission's report, especially those relating to the strengthening of our structures and systems that are meant to enhance oversight and accountability. They include accountability standard for ensuring sanctions for poor performance, processing of reporting, monitoring and follow-up, and the additional functioning to support oversight function of Parliament. Overall, the lesson we have learned in the course of implementing the Constitution is that Parliament needs to be well capacitated, Honourable Minister and His Excellency President, to support the implementation of its constitutional duty. Program Director, we owe the drafters of our Constitution, most of them, we have seen them here, including yourself, President Ramaphosa, a huge debt of gratitude. A meaningful percentage of them were introduced to the machinations of Parliament for the first time, yet they were able to draft a document that has continued to make us proud as a nation. As Parliament, we are committed to ensuring that the various pieces of legislation we pass are not in conflict with the Constitution. And thankfully, the judiciary has on a number of occasions assisted us in correcting, interpreting the Constitution and in aligning the legislation we pass therewith. Certainly, the judiciary has played a very significant role in reinforcing our democracy through ensuring that the Constitution reigns supreme, that the rule of law applies. To them, we wish to say, thank you, we see you. For South Africa to succeed, we must all act in a manner that respects and enhances the complementary nature of the different roles of the arms of the state, that is Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. We must demand that each of these arms contribute to the advancement of the aspiration of the people which are contained in the Constitution. Through the Constitution, the legislative sector has sought to galvanize the nation to focus on creating the necessary condition, modalities, or measures to support our constitutional democracy. This was clearly articulated in 1999 by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Tate Mandela, when he remarked, open quote, "It is the legislatures that the instrument have been fashioned to create a better life for all. It is the legislatures that oversight of government has been exercised. It is the legislatures that our society in all its formation has had an opportunity to influence the policy and implementation," close quote. In conclusion, as Parliament, we always view the Constitution as the supreme law of our beloved country, South Africa, the bedrock of our democracy, the codification of our values. Through the inclusion of socio-economic rights, it is revolutionary compared to what came before it. Unfortunately, poverty, unemployment, and inequality continue to threaten our democratic project, but the Constitution provides a framework for us to address most of our challenges. Program Director, through the proper use of the Constitution, all of us gathered here today and beyond have a role to play in ensuring that all citizens of our country enjoy equal economic rights. Indeed, that struggle must continue. As Parliament, we wish the National Conference on the Constitution well and may virtue thrive. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyambi, on behalf of the legislative arm of the state. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor to invite the host of the conference, Honorable Minister for Justice and Constitutional and Correctional Services, Minister Ronald Lamola, to address us and invite the President.
Thank you very much, Program Director, who is also the Director General of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, all the judges present who are present here today, the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa in his absentia. Honorable President, he has given us his apology due to prayer commitments. Honorable Nyambi, representing both the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the NCOP, all the heads of our Chapter 9 institutions, academia, people from civil society, NGOs, all those who participated in the drafting of our Constitution, the former justices of our courts and judges, including the former and ex-leaders of our Chapter 9 institutions who are also present, Vice Chancellors of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Zululand, Professor Xoliswa Mtose, and all the participants who are present here today. It is an honor for me to welcome you to this conference to participate on the evaluation of the past 25 years of our constitutional democracy. The 4th of February 2022 marked the 25th anniversary of the coming into effect of our Constitution. As guided by Cabinet last year, we committed ourselves as the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development to organize a national conference on the Constitution as to take stock of the road traveled in the last 25 years and to reflect on the road ahead. As we are mandated to deal with constitutional development, we are hopeful that this conference will continue to guide us on this journey of continuing to develop the Constitution, to make it a living document for the people of our country. It is a culmination. This conference is a culmination of a number of dialogues that we had throughout the country, in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga, in the Northern Cape, in Limpopo, in the Western Cape, and some of the dialogues that have been happening since 2022, coming into effect of the Constitution. And we are very grateful for all those who participated in that process. The document that will be adopted, which will become the outcome of this conference, will have to guide us for the next 25 years in shaping the Constitution and continuing to develop it. Today, we are turning that commitment into reality by utilizing this conference as a platform for the nation to reflect on the Constitution under the theme, The Reflections on the Constitution, the rule of law, accountability, social and economic justice. A reflection on the past 25 years of our Constitution will not be complete without acknowledging and recognition of the injustices of the past. We came from a shameful history of brutal system of colonialism and apartheid. The brutality of the apartheid system was eloquently captured by Justice Oregon in the following terms, and I quote, "The policy of apartheid in law and in fact systematically discriminated against black people in all aspects of social life. Black people were prevented from becoming owners of property or even residing in areas classified as white, which constituted nearly 90% of the landmass of South Africa. Senior jobs and access to established schools and universities were denied to them. Civic amenities, including transport systems, public parks, libraries, and many shops were closed to black people. Instead, separated and inferior facilities were provided. The deep scars of this appalling program are still visible in our society." Close quote. In response to this brutal system, our forebears waged a courageous struggle for freedom which we are today enjoying. Among the key documents produced during the fight for liberation of our country was the Freedom Charter, which set out and defined the social goals for the nation, and later set the firm foundation for the Constitution as we know it today. The ANC, in its document on constitutional principles for a democratic South Africa, said the following, and I quote, "A non-racial constitution can be adopted rapidly, but a non-racial South Africa will take many years to evolve. Yet, although the massive discrepancies in education, health, and living conditions imposed by decades of racial discrimination cannot be eliminated by constitutional declaration, the Constitution must provide a positive means to reduce progressively the imbalances and the inequalities to ensure that everybody has an equal chance in life. The preamble to our Constitution makes a clear call for all of us as a nation to, amongst others, heal the divisions of the past and establish a democratic society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. In this regard, our collective efforts made over the years in healing the divisions of the past have been aimed towards attainment of a democratic state guided by the values of human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms, non-racialism, non-sexism, supremacy of the Constitution, and the rule of law, the universal adult suffrage, a national common voters' roll, regular elections, and a democratic government to ensure accountability and responsiveness and openness. In the 25 years since the adoption of the Constitution, we now know as a society what works and what does not work. We have also learned from our mistakes. In pursuance for an equal society, we will have to draw from this experience. There won't be easy solutions to our challenges, but together we can pull through. Thus, this conference becomes very important in building a future of constitutionalism. No minority party can impose its will on the people. You constitute government by majority vote, not bullying and intimidation. The state has a duty to protect all its citizens and to enforce the rule of law. The rule of law is a cornerstone of our democracy. One of the distinguishing features of our Constitution from others is that ours was crafted with the ultimate goal of addressing socio-economic rights. With the inequalities borne by years of oppression, it was necessary that a Constitution drafted for South Africa responds to the realities faced by our people, impose obligations, and establish structural imperatives which sought to ameliorate the apartheid legacy. Society must benefit from the constitutional dividend. To guarantee a society based on the rule of law and the Constitution, we must fulfill our promise of a better life for all and an equal society. May the conversations over the next 3 days be robust, constructive, and forward-looking, and give us a guide for the next 25 years of the continuous development of the Constitution. Because constitutional democracy is not static, it's an evolving document. We need to continue with this development to guarantee its sustainability and to continue with the project of a constitutional democracy. Mr. President, seated here, stakeholders from various sectors of our society, also of the state, the legislature, the judiciary, the executive, NGOs, civil society, academia, students, and civil organizations from across the country, yearning to take the Constitution forward and this project that was started by our forebears. I now invite you to address this gathering and to give your words with regards to the Constitution. Can we please rise and welcome the President of the Republic of South Africa.
Thank you. Let us be seated, please. Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola, Justices current and past of the Constitutional Court and Supreme Court of Appeal, current and past judges, presidents and judges, ministers and deputy ministers, and acting chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Nyambi, members of the National Assembly and the NCOP here present, current and past heads of our Chapter 9 institutions, traditional leaders here present, chancellors and vice-chancellors of our universities, past drafters of our Constitution who I have seen here present, directors general of our various departments in government, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a real pleasure to be in your presence here to come and reflect on our Constitution. I truly welcome this opportunity, and it is about time that we have a moment such as this to not only reflect on the constitutional architecture we have in our country, but also to reflect on its efficacy, the extent that it has served the aspirations of our people. There is one other country that has done one other process which I would dearly like us to embark upon. They convened key role players, as we have today, and their task was to reflect on the laws that they have passed since their own revolution. And it was a thoroughgoing reflection, looking at whether the laws that they had passed since the beginning of their post-revolutionary period had actually achieved their purpose. Today, we are focusing on our Constitution, and Minister, working together with Parliament, I think there should be an opportunity for us to look at the various pieces of legislation that we have put in place to transform our country. Our Constitution is a product of long and protracted struggles for freedom, for justice, equality, human dignity, and a better life for all the people of our country. It is indeed the product of the struggle against colonialism and apartheid, against oppression, subjugation, and also dispossession. In the first certification case of the new Constitution, the Constitutional Court said, South Africa's past has been aptly described as that of a deeply divided society characterized by strife, conflict, untold suffering, and injustice, which generated gross violations of human rights, the transgressions of humanitarian principles in violent conflicts, and left a legacy of hatred, fear, guilt, and revenge. Our Constitution is therefore more than the supreme law of our land. It is a firm and emphatic rejection of the political, social, and economic system that came before it. Our Constitution, which has now been in operation for over 25 years, constitutes what I would call a social compact on how we should, as South Africans, relate to each other as a people, how we should relate to other nations as a sovereign state, and how we should govern ourselves, but also how we should deal with our resources. The preamble to our Constitution, which we read, gives a powerful sense of the context in which it was written, the past which it sought to correct, and the future which it aspired. In the preamble, we, the people of South Africa, firmly state that the purpose of the Constitution is to, 1, heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. And 2, to lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government that we elect is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. And 3, to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. And lastly, to build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. By describing the purpose of the Constitution in these terms, the people of South Africa established the Constitution as an instrument of fundamental political, social, and economic transformation. Transformation was therefore written all over our Constitution. The Constitution places on all institutions of state a responsibility to take those measures that are necessary to build a society that is in nearly all respects different from the society that came before it. It places emphasis on the work that must be done to heal the divisions of the past in circumstances where these divisions are manifested in the severe inequality of the present. It calls for social justice in circumstances where a large proportion of South Africans continue to live in poverty, where despite substantial progress, many are still unable to access things such as land, housing, water, food, healthcare, and education. The Constitution correctly recognizes that to advance this transformational promise, all spheres of government and all organs of state are required to provide effective, transparent, accountable, as well as coherent governments. To ensure that organs of state execute their constitutional mandates effectively, the legislative branch of government has the power to hold respective executive organs to account and have oversight over the implementation of the legislation and the conduct of other organs of state. Parliament, as a representative of the people of our country, has a clear mandate to hold the President, the Deputy President, and ministers to account, individually and collectively, for the exercise of their powers and performance of their functions. Our legislative branch has, over the past 25 years, contributed to constitutional democracy through the enactment of legislation that both transforms society and the relationship between citizens and the state. I will, at the end, pose whether what I've just said has really manifested itself in the way it was envisaged. That is, in terms of the transformational purpose that our people expected. The legislation that's been passed includes those required to give effect to the provisions of the Constitution, such as the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, and the Promotion of Access to Information Act. The work of the legislative branch in promoting good governance has been complemented by state institutions established to support constitutional democracy. These, of course, include the Public Protector, the South African Human Rights Commission, Commission on Gender Equality, the Electoral Commission, and the Auditor General. Each of these bodies play an important role in the viability as well as the sustainability of our constitutional democracy. They help to ensure that the state gives effect to the ideals and the vision of our Constitution. The judiciary, by upholding the rule of law and protecting human rights, has played and continues to play a pivotal role in our constitutional democracy. The enforcement of laws through the judiciary is crucial in ensuring the sustainability and viability of our democracy. Laws bind individuals in society together. Without the rule of law, our country is vulnerable to chaos, to violence, to mayhem, to anarchy, rampant corruption, violation of human rights, persistent inequality, and the collapse of state institutions. Where state institutions collapse, there is anarchy and disorder. The judiciary, led by the Constitutional Court, and in particular, founding members like Chief Justice Arthur Chaskalson and Pius Langa, has played a key role in giving effect to the founding values of the post-apartheid South Africa. It has played this role through groundbreaking judgments on many aspects of our Constitution. Following the establishment of the Constitutional Court, the Court has emerged as a uniquely powerful institution, manifesting a moral constitutional authority. There is no viable state or effective constitutional democracy without the support and involvement of citizens in the different public formations. Apart from paying taxes, observing the law and contributing to social and economic development, citizens also play an important role in the establishment of our various governance structures and in holding accountable those put in charge to serve the nation. Over the past 25 years, our Constitution, a lot of progress has been made in redressing the injustices of the past. Some of these measures include the provision of housing, water, sanitation, and social grants for the elderly, persons with disabilities, and children. There has been a distinct improvement in access to land, education, and health care services. These are part of the ongoing efforts to address economic and social injustices. However, despite numerous achievements, there are still many challenges in the realization of the vision as well as the values and prescripts of our Constitution. The persistently high levels of poverty, rising levels of unemployment, inequality, corruption, and violence show that our journey to the promised land is far from over. But we have embarked on this journey. The contours of our racist and sexist past still feature in private and public institutions, in business, in access to skills, wealth, opportunity, and in the spatial configuration of our cities, towns, and rural areas. South Africa's constitutional project will fail if vast inequalities and existing levels of poverty are not addressed by all levels of government. As the courts acknowledged in the case of Subramani versus Minister of Health, it said, we live in a society in which there are great disparities in wealth. Millions of people are living in deplorable conditions and in great poverty. There is a high level of unemployment, inadequate social security, and many do not have access to clean water or adequate health services. These conditions already existed when the Constitution was adopted, and a commitment to address them and to transform our society into one in which there will be human dignity, freedom, equality, lies at the heart of our new constitutional order. For as long as these conditions continue to exist, the court continued, that aspiration will have a hollow ring. The success of our constitutional democracy will, to a large extent, depend on how these challenges are addressed. Therefore, this conference reflects and should reflect on the road ahead. It should reflect on the issues such as the progress on land restitution and reform. It should also reflect on the electoral reform that we need to embark upon. It should reflect on governance and the transformation of the economy. We are compelled to do so because that is precisely what is at the heart of transforming our country into a country that will meet the aspirations of our people. So it is not just a legal or constitutional matter. It is a matter that goes to the heart of our people. It should also reflect on matters such as how we deal with corruption, with crime, national security, and how these issues impact on the exercise and the protection of human rights. It is my sincere belief that this gathering of South Africans in all their diversity will identify actionable measures that will materially contribute towards the achievement of our constitutional goals. This conference gives us an opportunity to reflect on the road that we must traverse to strengthen our constitutional democracy and address the many challenges around the rule of law, accountability, social and economic justice. The strengthening and entrenchment of constitutional democracy requires a whole number of things, but centrally it requires an effective leadership in all spheres of our society, political will, and the support of all citizens. In our quest to strengthen our democracy, we do need to ask ourselves some pertinent questions that have to deal with the various contemporary issues that we have to confront or deal with. The transformation, for instance, of the judiciary is one of those that we need to ask ourselves. Have we done enough in relation to transforming our judiciary so that it is a judiciary that is fit for purpose for the transformational aspirations that we have? Is there more to be done than to put into effect gender and democratic balance in our judiciary? It's a question we have to ask ourselves. Has the executive done enough to develop our constitutional architecture on matters that it has been charged with? When we established the Ministry of Justice, initially we established it to be called Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Development. The current nomenclature we have is a new one. We need to ask ourselves, has the executive taken steps to get on with the development of our Constitution? As we all know, constitutions are not static documents. They always get amended. They evolve with the times. Have we done that as an executive? We once, as an executive, received apt criticism from one of the justices when it came to our failure to get on with the process of land reform. And that justice said, as a court, we waited and waited, hoping that we would be presented with cases on the issue of land reform that we would deal with so that we can improve the jurisprudence and interpret the Constitution more effectively. We honestly have to ask ourselves whether we have done so over the 25 years. We also have to ask ourselves whether the legislative arm of our state has lived up to its calling of passing transformative laws as envisaged by our Constitution. We do also, and lastly but not least, have to ask ourselves whether our people, acting through various people's formations, civil society, taken advantage of the constitutional architecture to advance the basic rights of our people. These are questions which I hope will occupy your minds as you exchange views during the course of this conference. So we do hope that this conference, apart from anything else, will be a transformative conference that will lead the way and give guidance as we reflect on our 25 years. of constitutional democracy. As we prepare to reflect on these issues, we should recall the words of former President Nelson Mandela on the occasion of the signing of the Constitution in Sharpeville on the 10th of December 1996, when he said, "Today we cross a critical threshold. Let us now, drawing strength from the unity which we have forged, together grasp the opportunities and realize the vision enshrined in this Constitution. Let us give practical recognition to the injustices," he said, "of the past by building a future based on equality and social justice. Let us nurture our national unity by recognizing with respect and joy the languages, the cultures, the religions of South Africa in all their diversity. Let tolerance for one another's views create the peaceful conditions which give space for the best in all of us to find expression and to flourish. And above all, let us work together in striving to banish homelessness, illiteracy, hunger, and disease." So said our great leader, Nelson Mandela. These words provide an essential guide as we chart the road ahead. I therefore wish you all the best in your discussions and look forward over the next 3 days to the robust and productive engagement from which our constitutional democracy and our nation will surely benefit. This is a very rare opportunity, and let us grasp it with both hands and hear the diverse views of some of the best legal, constitutional, social, economic minds that we have in our country. And as I look at all of you, I see a diversity of some of the really outstanding views. So I look forward to your debates, and I look forward to the outcomes that will come from this conference. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, we thank you for your wide-ranging address that has indeed covered a wide range of issues that South Africans of goodwill that are seated here will grapple with over the next 3 days. We have a play here by a group from, it's called Bye Bye, from Pretoria, that will invite them to the stage to perform. The stage is yours.
What frustrated of their war. Oh yeah! Hey, 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 yeah! Hey, hey, yeah! Hey, yeah! Hey, hey, yeah! Hey, hey,
That's all right.
hey, hey, yeah!
Hey,
Yeah!
hey, hey. What's up?
Hey! Hey!
Hey!
Ay!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Oka!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Ja!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Ja! Hey! 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 Hey!
Tear gas. The burning of tires fill the skies. Roaring voices of the young people can be heard from a distance. Echoes of gunshots are also in the air. These young people are protesting against their own rights. They are facing the wrath of the apartheid police armed with stones and bottles. And on the other hand, there is also looting and destruction of property by the enemy students. Dead bodies are everywhere. June 16, 1976, the students are protesting against Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in their schools. I am Thabo Kumar, reporting live from Soweto in Johannesburg.
That took place at the Union Building and the subsequent events that took place in Sharpeville, where our people protested against apartheid pass law, pushed for more resistance and unrest in the country. Many of our leaders were arrested and liberation movements were banned. This was the beginning of a new era in the fight